What's up, everybody? Welcome to Lines in Live. I'm your host, Justin Patrick, and with me is my co-host, Mr. David Best. What's up, David?
Hey, good evening.
Good evening to you, man. It's good to be back on the show tonight. We're going to be talking to our our second run of the LA swing, we'll call it, Mr. Mike Frenette. We talked to his son last week, Stephen Frenette, about a little red fishing, and today we're going to chat with Mike and get his take on basically his business and red fishing in general. But man, it's great to have everybody on tonight. Charles Breckenridge. I've been told I need to call you Seth now. So what's up, Seth? But we'll get some more people on here in a second, guys. Thanks for tuning in tonight. David, what's up, man? We got some fishing in the swing, my friend. You've been doing a little fishing, a little catching actually lately.
I've been catching a few.
Yeah. We've been out there, leaning on the old friendly pets, the neighborhood pets, a little bit.
Yeah, there's what do you call them other than pets when you catch them more than once? So
assistance.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, well, it's cool to have a little place like that, in your backyard. You can get to pretty quick. Go out there and get your line wet, catch some fish. I mean, you can just about have a guarantee every time you go out there, you're going to catch a good fish. They've done
in the last 5 trips there. I have only one trip that I didn't catch a 19-inch fish.
Oh yeah, I would say the average is around 18, 19 inches.
17 to 18. Easy.
Yeah, I mean, you hook into some 20s pretty regularly.
Yeah,
but buddy Seth's catching them on beds here in Richmond. Wow, that's pretty awesome.
I believe it.
What are your water temps up there, Seth? But a few quick reminders, guys. Want to remind everybody about the St. Jude Kayak Classic coming up May 29th. And you guys can head over to linesandyakfishing.com. David's got the flyer right there. You can also see it at linesandyakfishing.com. At the very top in the tab section, you'll see St. Jude Classic. And just added the rules up there today. So I've had a few people reach out to me and ask me about kayak tournaments in general. They're interested in the St. Jude Kayak Classic, and they want to know, what there is to know about kayak tournaments. So myself and David, we're going to be, David, this is actually our reminder, is that we're going to be getting together soon and going over the rules and just talking about the format for kayak tournaments. And we're going to upload that video to the Facebook event page that we have created for the tournament, as well as linesandyakfishing.com under the same tab. So you can find that video there talking about all the ins and outs of kayak tournaments, as well as the rules for this specific event. So keep an eye out on that. But if you have any questions, or if you need to download or get the registration form, you can get it from David there in the shop, or you go to linesandyakfishing.com, and the mail-in registration form is there as well. The other way you can register is in person on May 28th at the Batesville Civic Center in person. I believe it. What's that time frame, Dave? Between 2 and 4, or got my times wrong?
I think it's 1 and 4, but 1 and 3.
1 to 3. Okay, so between 1 to 3 p.m. you can get up there and register. So looking forward to that, man. We got a little bit of time left for that. May 15th is the actual mail-in registration deadline. So be sure to stay on top of that if you're interested. Trent Harris, what's up, dude? Man, you got your pop-Rs rigged up for this weekend? It's getting about that time for real. But close, yeah. Well, you can catch them. You can catch them on top in 40-degree water. Sometimes
it's close. I think you could.
So you guys had a little kayak day up at the shop this past weekend. I was been out sick, so I unfortunately missed that. Anything you want to share about that, David, or anything you want to share about the shop?
I had a great time. I mean, it was fun. We're going to do some more things like that. We had Matt up there with his Hobie. We had Christina and Colton up there with their new canoes, rigged with their XI3s. Christina's got a little Flint with an XI3 on it. Colton's got that F Frontier 12. I want to see that dang little Flint with that XI3 on high. I bet you that thing will.
Yeah.
But
he's probably pushing 5 for sure.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you she is. So and then we had Ashley come and sat down with us and talked for a while, and we had a good time. We had several people come through, probably 15 or 20 people come through looking at the different boats, and had my boat set up. Of course, I didn't have the NK 180 on it yet. I'm still trying to figure a couple pieces out there.
Oh, you got one?
I have 2 NK 180s here at the store.
Oh, okay. So one. So one of them's for you.
One of them's for me. I got to get some things done before I can do it though. So because I still got to figure out how to register the boat since it's not my theoretical boat. I may have to pay for the boat and then
Yeah, you got to have the registration.
Complications of registration. I haven't figured that piece out so I can be legal.
I hear you.
So yes, but I do have an NK 180 to go on the back of the Outback.
Look at him. He's had enough.
I have caved in. I'm going to go to the dark side. I said I wasn't going to. But.
Hey, there ain't nothing dark about it, my friend. There is nothing but a little bit of advantage.
Well, I'm wishing I had it ready for Saturday.
Yeah.
With them big winds that we're going to have Saturday on Kentucky Lake, that is not going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll be glad to have the Motor Guide XI3 with that anchor mode on it. So
yeah, so,
no trouble there.
But other than that, we still got a great selection of kayaks. We got a new shipment of new canoe coming sometime in the next week. We have another shipment of Hobie coming sometime in the next couple of weeks, according to my text with AJ on Sunday. So, a lot of good stuff coming. You guys better. I mean, it's beginning to warm up. We're beginning to sell boats just about every day again.
Yep,
it's fixing to hit. So, if you want a boat, you better come get it.
They're gonna start flying. So, yeah, our buddy Seth says nobody likes to show off, David. So quit showing off. Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with showing off when you got a little bit of power behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, man. So we got it's really about to ramp up a lot. We got a lot of things coming up. We got the Tennessee Bass Nation and also WTBY combined tournaments running on Kentucky Lake this Saturday. So we're looking forward to that. And then, man, I think me and you get pretty busy hitting the road. At least I know I do. I've got Grand Lake coming up, and then Lake Eufaula for the Hobie Bass Open Series. And it really doesn't stop until the end of June. So it's about to be a lot of fishing coming up.
Yeah.
So, but
I'm trying to figure that all out right now.
Yeah, Grand's kind of getting questionable for me, but we'll see. Well, anyways, we're good. We got part 2 of our Louisiana redfish swing topic going on tonight. We got Mr. Mike Frenette. We're going to get him on here in just a second and talk with him. I want to definitely thank our sponsors, Battleborn Batteries, as well as Primary Tackle, for sponsoring the show. We greatly appreciate you guys. If you're in the market for a lithium battery, be sure to check out battlebornbatteries.com. They got everything in stock made right here in the United States. And David's, I'm sure that you've got anything that you need to get out on the water. David's got you covered with primary side as well as the SY side.
Yeah, between motors and accessories and tackle. I mean, there's a lot out there. So.
Yep. Well, we're going to get Mike in here.
Hello,
Mr.
guys.
Mike.
Hey. How's everybody doing?
Good, man. There's just something about the way you're sitting in that seat.
Well, let me tell you what's going on here.
You just look like a country bum sitting over there.
We're still rebuilding from the hurricane last year, and I've got like an 8 square foot area right here with a chair in it, and everything else is upside down. If I spun the camera around, you kind of see what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm pretty comfortable right here talking to you boys.
You look comfortable, man. Glad to have you with us tonight.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
And David, hello, and pleasure meeting you. And it sounds like you've got the bomb up there as far as all the equipment and stuff that the kayakers need and the freshwater guys need up there.
Yep. We're in pretty good shape. We could use more, but you never can have enough. Right?
Yeah, with this industry the way it's been in the last couple of years, I think everybody could use a little bit more, huh?
No kidding.
Yeah, really.
It's been a tough one.
I sent him a picture earlier. This guy, he's doing a mobile tackle shop, and it's really cool. He's got a huge trailer. I mean, it's going to be an expensive rig. I was telling him he needed to do that so he can just go around and fish tournaments all the time. Just park it at the venue lot.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, is it?
Yeah. Everybody needs something last minute.
Don't come down by my place. I'll spend too darn much money.
Yeah, well, I told him I have a buddy in Texas. He's been trying to get me to buy his old trailer. He did that for several years, and that's what he did. I mean, he retired from the military. He just traveled around the country pre-COVID, and just doing shows and having a good time and going and fishing tournaments. And he'd open it up at a tournament and help with registrations and all that kind of stuff. Just make money at the tournament, and that'd be all fine and good, except the store I run pays all my bills. So, I'm kind of here.
You got to kind of be there.
Yeah, that's the only downfall. Well, Mike, man, you and I haven't known each other for very long. It was a pleasure meeting you at the Red Crest Expos at the Battleborn booth. You got a really awesome lodge and guide service down there in Venice, Louisiana. So, man, I want to get to know you a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about your background, kind of, and how you got started with the redfish guiding down there.
Well, first of all, obviously we have a mutual partnership with Battleborn Batteries, and you've probably been with them longer than myself, and I've kind of got involved with them right before COVID hit. And I wish that I'd have been involved with them before that, because I absolutely love their lithium batteries. And you know what? A lot of people don't realize that there is a huge difference between one lithium battery to another in Battleborn. And I'm not saying that because we're partners with them, but if you do the research on it and educate yourself on it, you'll quickly learn and see why they're at the top of the game. But enough of that. And thank God that we're both partnered with Battleborn, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But I started many years ago. Probably, I think it's going on. I think I'm in my 39th year or whatever. But obviously fished before that. And when I first got into the business, I did a lot of offshore. I was pretty much the first guy down here in the Venice Marina when it opened. And really, back then we just had a little place. I mean, it was, the trailer was the marina office, and it was a back down ramp, and it was actually a hoist at that time, and everything was just grass around here. And it was the last pioneer in Louisiana, sort of say, as far as the area goes. And so I did a lot of offshore fishing back then, a lot of big tuna, a lot of wahoo, marlin, all that kind of good stuff. And of course, you have you've got the reef fish at all the oil structure rigs, giant, big red snapper, mangrove snappers, groupers, amberjack, list goes on. But
Yeah.
my favorite type of fishing has and always will be is red fishing, and specifically the sight casting. It's like hunting and fishing all in one, and there's nothing more exciting when it comes to a fisherman to be, regardless whether you're sight casting your bass or whether I'm sight casting my redfish, to be able to see a certain species in his own environment and then try to talk him out of his own environment. I'm not so sure it gets anything better than that. I still get excited. My juices still flow when I see him swimming slowly in the grass, and I'm like, you're the one I need for the tournament. I got about 50 yards between me, you, and the live well, and one of us has got to give.
Yeah.
So really before Katrina, we started concentrating more on the redfish than the offshore, and obviously since Katrina, we've full blown into it. And there's different types of red fishing. You have your tournament red fishing, which is when I get to fish, and when we're taking our clients, we don't fish. and our clients come from all over the country because we have a very unusual area here where we have the giant redfish all year round, whereas in different coastal states from the Chesapeake Bay all the way through to Mexico, it can be fairly seasonal, and it is seasonal. And if the weather's bad, you might even miss the opportunity. But here, it's 12 months out the year. So when I'm fishing daily, we're going for the brutes. It's usually anywhere from 15 to 45 pounders in shallow water. And
wow.
what's cool about it in the country is just 15. Excuse me. I guess we all got a cough right now. 15, and that was contagious, huh? 10, 15 years ago, we probably wouldn't have had this discussion because nobody really knew or even heard about redfish. But in today's life, in today's world, pretty much everybody through the country at some point has either seen a redfish television show on TV or they've heard about redfish. So it's become a very, very, very popular species. And one of the reasons why is everything that you guys do in the bass world can be related and can be associated to redfish.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Closest thing to bass fishing out there is catching redfish.
Now, the only difference is, boys, it's, I'm kind of like a heroin drug dealer. The first time I get you down here, get you booked onto a redfish.
He's just gonna come out right the top. I'm just like a heroin drug dealer.
You're done with the bass at that point. I mean, it's over. It's so addicting that you'd be in trouble. It's like, can I buy a piece of property down here and move, or what do I do?
I know. I've done it. I told Justin I've been wanting to go down there and tie into a big redfish with my kayak so bad I can't stand it. I've done it in the past.
You need to come down here then. And
my old corporate headquarters was in Metairie, so I spent a lot of time redfishing when I was down there. So,
absolutely, you hook into one of these big guys down here. There's more and more people in kayaks that fish down here now, and but you hook into one of those monsters, I guarantee you they're going to pull you around.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. I caught a 7-pounder yesterday, and it pulled me around.
You're talking about that XI3 or whatever, that young lady that had one on her boat or whatever, at 5 miles an hour. I'm not so sure that a big boat might pull you a little bit faster than that.
I wouldn't doubt it a bit. I've been pulled around by some big hybrids as well, man. It's no joke. It don't take much. I admire you guys in the kayaks. That's and we talked about that at the show. I mean, that's pretty cool that there's a lot of people that are fishing out of the kayaks. I don't know if I could be comfortable all day in it, although you told me with all the new stuff in kayaks I could be, but not that they would, but we got these little critters down here. We got these big lizards in the marsh that I'm not sure I want to be eyeball to eyeball with them every day. Yeah. We just played a video. I need to pull that up.
I saw it.
Did you see it? Yeah.
I saw when the guy was paddling backwards.
Yeah. He put the extended version of the video on Instagram, and after he backed up, he hit his electric motor. He took off down the lake.
Oh, I got to see the extended version because I was laughing when I saw it. I said, I'm laughing, but I did the same darn thing.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like it was coming straight at him too.
I'm out.
That's funny. Brandon's always talking about, man, if I ever saw a big old gator, I'd pull my gun out on him. I'm like, well, I didn't see your gun coming out that time, did you? Didn't have much time to think about anything else.
I think the first instinct is just get the heck out of there.
Yeah, gone.
But, back to the the red fishing, and we fish a variety of different ways, just like you guys do in the freshwater for bass, depending on conditions. We use a lot of lipless crankbaits. We use a lot of crankbaits. We use a lot of spinner baits. We use a lot of just jig heads and plastic tails. We use a poppy cork style, a variety of things. And probably one of my overall, as far as hard baits go, my overall, in top water baits too, obviously. That's an explosive, crushing hit because physically, the way the redfish is made, his mouth is kind of down on the bottom side of his head because he's a bottom feeder. He loves to eat crabs. He's the bully of the marsh. He eats whatever. I don't think he's got a favorite. He eats oysters, he eats crabs, he eats shrimps, he eats pogies, he eats everything. But when he comes up on a topwater bait, the whole head comes out the water, and it's just it's such an explosive strike.
Yeah.
But overall, one of my favorite baits to use is the red eye shad, a lipless crankbait, and it's very extremely effective under a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah. Do you upsize the hooks on your crankbaits?
When I have time, I do. But we don't fish it. You see, you guys fish a tight drag because you got to manhandle those fish out of a log or something like that. Whereas, really we don't have to worry about that except for maybe some oyster beds and stuff like that. So we're fishing with a lighter drag, and you can't stop these fish, the big ones. If you do, something's going to give, whether it's even 3x or 4x strength hooks or whatever. If you tighten up your drag, you're gonna damage your rod or your reel or whatever. So we fish with a lighter drag than you all would normally do because of the species.
Yeah,
But
makes sense.
answer to your question is, and we'll be having a whole new series of saltwater baits coming out with Strike King, and yes, the hooks are going to be salt strength. They're going to be salt. They've already been tested, and they're going to be way stronger that comes in on the bass side of the baits right now. But actually, the factory hooks that come with them are very good hooks, and the way we fish them, we really don't have much of a problem with them.
Justin, did you freeze?
Still there?
I think Justin froze on us, Mike.
I think Justin's like thinking about a big redfish right now.
Yeah, I think he got kind of sidetracked, and he's on his own.
He's zoned out right now.
It happens every once in a while. We have these little tech issues.
Modern technology.
Yeah.
Technology. David, I'm really surprised that I've got a strong enough signal down here in Venice to be able to participate in this, because we never know what we're going to get down here as far as a signal.
Oh, I know. I've spent a little time down there. One of my first, one of my first red fishing trips was on a corporate outing where we had won a trip, and we got to go redfish for the weekend and spend a great, it was an awesome weekend out of Venice. Nope, there's Justin calling me. Hey, Justin.
Are y'all still running?
Yeah, we're still running fine over here, boss.
My computer just froze.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
All right. We're just talking.
So tell me about your trip, David.
So, they took us out. We did 2 or 3 different ones, and one was a big party barge trip, where they took us out at one of the jetties, and we caught redfish that way.
Yep.
The other one was they took us out in individual boats, kind of like what I imagine you guys do down there. And they put 2 of us in a boat and let us go and do the salt marsh kind of piece of it and go chase them, and had a good time throwing red eye shads, throwing or lipless crankbaits, and throwing spinner baits and little swim baits and those kind of things. Some of the girls were doing the popping cork thing, and we were catching fish in a lot of different ways. So,
well, the one thing about the popping cork, for sure, when things become, like, I call it almost a search bait, because it's the sound of that popping cork that attracts the fish to the bait, and it works, and it's amazing how well it does work under any conditions.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
How long ago was it when you were in Venice?
The last time I was in Venice was probably 10 years ago.
Oh, geez. Okay, that wasn't that long.
No, actually, it was pre-Katrina. So
pre-Katrina. Okay, so that's a while ago then. Yeah.
It's been a little longer than that, actually.
Yeah, so that's over 16 years.
Yeah, so
it doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it has.
So, we're getting older, so time goes a little faster than it does for the young guys like Justin.
Man, David, I'd rather not even go to that discussion.
So
let's not even go there, because it's amazing how time. We were just talking about that today. I mean, we're in April already, and before you know it, half this year's gone. And where the heck did it go?
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
I told Justin I'm gonna get down there to come take a trip with y'all, if not with the kayak, or just to come hang out and go hang out in the boat and go catch some because it's been a minute since I've done it.
Oh, I'd love to have you come down because there's fishing's exciting no matter. I don't care whether you're fishing for perch or bass or walleye or
Yeah.
redfish or marlin. It really doesn't matter. Just being in the
Yeah.
outdoors and just fishing in general is just, to me, is such a charge. And I've loved it all my life. I'm still ate up with it, and it's my drug of choice.
Oh yeah, same here. I mean, I grew up in East Arkansas fishing for everything from bluegills and crappie to bass fishing to cat fishing. Did a little of everything. I mean, it's just always been one of those things that I always loved to do. I for years I did the Louisiana Sportsman Show in Gonzales.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah, I appeared there
So,
sometimes.
and if I had to guess, we probably met down there once or twice over the years.
We probably have met, and I guess you're gonna go back to what you just said. We're getting older. My memory, I can remember. It's funny. I can remember somebody's trip from 30 years ago, what they caught the entire trip. But ask me what their names are, I'm done.
Forget about it.
I'm done, man.
I'm lucky to tell you. If I met you yesterday, I'm lucky to tell you what your name is today.
That would be me. I can tell you everything else about you, but I'll forget that name.
So, but I'd never forget a fishing hole. I rarely forget a fish that I caught. Drives my team partner in my bass fishing boat nuts because I'll say, "Yeah, we caught this many fish here, this date, this time," and he's like, "No, there's no way. I've never been here before." I'm like, "Dude, we have caught them here."
Yeah, that's kind of the same way I am. I don't forget things like that. You know why? Because it's all about memories.
Exactly. That's the important stuff.
It truly is.
Speaking
And I know
of memories, I'm going to test you. So one of our regular listeners, his name is Seth Breckenridge. He works at.
I know exactly who he is. He worked at Bass Pro. I met him at Bass Pro in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'll tell you, what a cool guy it was, and it was an awesome moment because I know exactly who you talked about, and so it shows you my memory's still there. And this was probably I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was when I was going up to Strike King for a meeting when they were still in Collierville, and I was also going to visit Bill Dance, who's a very good friend of mine, and I'm walking through the store. And I mean, this is so ironic and it's crazy. I'll never forget it. I hear this guy and he goes, "Mike Frenette?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm afraid to turn around." I was like, who the heck? I'm in the middle of nowhere here in Bass Pro, and the store was kind of empty. It was late in the evening. And I turned around and it was a young man that had a Bass Pro shirt on, and he walks up to me and he says, "Man," he says, "I can't believe it's you." And he says, "I want to shake your hand." He said, "I just watched you and Bill Dance this morning on TV." And he said, "I recognized your voice when you were walking through the store." And I'm like, this guy here is sharp if he recognized the voice and knew my name. I'll never forget it. Never. Great young man. Great young man.
Seth is a cool kid. He moved from here. He lives in Virginia now, but he still watches our shows religiously. I've been doing the shows we did as Primary Tackle Live for years, and then we've been doing it as Lines In Yak Fishing the last 6 months or so. And so he still watches. He comes to town. He always comes to see me. You know, he's one of those cool guys that is, and he does a little of everything. We've had him on the show once or twice, just to kind of talk about everything fishing because this kid loves to catch them all.
And you know what? That's what it's all about.
It is.
But I was shocked when I'm telling you, then I thought somebody was putting them up to me. I was like, how is this even possible? And it was an honor. It really was. And again, we sat there and talked fishing for a little bit, and in fact, I went and saw Bill Dance the next day. Went and visited him, and I said, "Bill," he's a big fan of yours, and I'm on your show quite a bit, so vicariously through you, he knew who I was. I said, "We need to sign a hat together and send it to him." He says, "Absolutely, let's do it." And we signed a hat with both our names on it and sent it to him. And again, middle of Memphis, Tennessee, walking through a store, and somebody says, "I recognize that voice." That's pretty cool.
He's texting me right now. He's so happy.
He's if everybody was like him, we'd have no problems in this
We
world.
have zero issues in the world. Absolutely.
No problems at all. And that I kind of mentioned it earlier, David. It to me, it's so important to get young people into fishing, into outdoors, and
Absolutely.
it doesn't necessarily have to be fishing. Get outdoors. Get away from that video game. Spend more time outdoors. And I truly believe that we wouldn't have as many troublesome young kids if they had the opportunity to go fish in a pond, or in a park in a town or whatever. Somebody, man, always take a kid fishing when you can. Always.
I agree.
I love when my clients come down with their kids. And one of the first questions I'll get, Dave, is, how old do they have to be to come fishing? I said, well, here's my answer. I started taking my boys when they were old enough to talk. As long as they can tell me they've had enough or they've got a problem, that's all I need. And I think, that's one thing that's important when you take the kids fishing, David, is we're older adults, so we fish tournaments, we're aggressive fishermen, and we're going for a particular thing. And but to a kid, a fish is a fish. A hardhead catfish or a bullhead catfish up in your area, a little perch, to them that's the same thing as a blue marlin to us. I mean, it doesn't have to be. You got to have patience with them. Just let them catch anything.
Exactly. I mean, one of the most treasured pieces I have at my house is my grandfather did a charcoal drawing of me and my little girl when she was 2, fishing on the side of the bank at our pond that we owned, underneath an old oak tree, catching brim.
Oh,
it's a picture of her. It's a picture. He took an old picture of me and her with her holding that fish, and it's just half of my customers, a big chunk. We're a community store here, kind of in the middle of town in an old historic district, and a big chunk of my customers, 20-25% of my customers, are kids that ride up on bicycles with a backpack and a couple of rods strapped to their back, fishing all the local ponds around here. And I mean, I'm always doing a little something here, a little something there for most of them, just to kind of keep them going and keep them running. So, I mean, it's important to get these kids fishing. I've sponsored a lot of the local high schools here and their fishing teams. And
isn't that incredible how the high school bass team
that's gotten?
It is just taken off like crazy. It's such a great thing to see, and these kids move into college bass, and whether they take their career to the professional level or not, it just shows how many people are getting back into the sport that may not have if they didn't have the opportunity in these high schools and all that kind of good stuff. And it's a great thing.
No, absolutely, no doubt.
One thing about I was going to mention, David, since it's been, at least minimum 16 years since you've been down here, prior to Katrina, there's a lot that's changed down here, David, and we've lost a tremendous amount of our estuary and our marsh that is the incubator that grows everything. And it's something that, the rest of the country may not be aware of because, sight unseen, you don't realize the detriment that's actually happening in the lower part of the Mississippi Delta. And, there's a lot of things that can be done that aren't being done, in my opinion. They could be done a lot easier to protect and maybe restore and save what we have, because quite honestly, the lower Mississippi Delta, somebody sitting in the middle of Oklahoma or Nebraska, whatever, may say, it's just, you finished with your nap there, Justin?
had
We are
to
so
walk
glad
off
to
for
have
a
you.
second.
You got to be well rested.
I'm like one of those guys. I just fall asleep out of nowhere. Sorry about
But
that, man.
what I was just talking about, Justin, is the difference in our marshland in the lower part of the Delta here, and a lot of people that may be watching your show that, are from the Midwest or wherever, could be Upper New York or whatever, don't realize the importance that this entire Delta has to the whole nation. And they may say, oh, well, that's just Mike's fishing hole. Well, no, it's not just Mike's fishing hole. This is where, I forget what the numbers are, but it's like 60 to 70% of the shellfish and crabs, shrimp, and finfish are supplied to the rest of the nation
Right.
from, the lower part of the southeastern Louisiana, and it's disappearing by severe numbers. So everybody should be, in favor of making sure that the proper things are done to restore the marsh down here.
No doubt.
And
No doubt.
unfortunately, there's millions and millions of dollars that are put into, quote, studies. It's money that is just horribly spent. But
Right.
don't get me started on that.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that. I have some maps in my storage. Long story, but I have a lot of my stuff in storage right now, and it's pre-Katrina. I'm trying to remember the name of that tackle shop. There's a tackle shop in Metairie.
You got a couple. You've got Shags and you got Puglia's.
Shags. I bought the maps from Shags, and it's Delacroix and Venice and those areas.
You probably bought a standard map.
Yeah.
Standard mapping company.
It's the big overview satellite picture.
Yep, that's standard mapping. That's
And
owned by Glenn Shear. And go ahead.
So I looked at some satellite images not long ago when I dug those things out, and it's like so different. And there's so little less of that. I mean, it used to be just
it's
these
sobering.
Big areas with little ponds and brush and all this.
They're gone.
And it's gone. It's just not there anymore.
Wow.
It's gone.
And
there's things that can be done. I mean, you could build exterior berms on the outside, pump it in quick. I watch where they don't intend to do it, but they pump sediment from. They're continually dredging down here, 12 months out the year, 24 hours a day. And a lot of that sediment is just taken out to the spoil area in the Gulf and just dumped. Well, I watch them, and again, not intentionally, but they'll pump sand sometimes into certain areas. And I watched a couple of years ago, oh gosh, I don't know, probably about 3 or 4 miles of area that was completely underwater in between the Gulf, and there's a back levee canal that goes parallel with the river, and that had just eroded away. Well, within less than a month, that it had probably 4 or 5 feet of sand on top of it, and now it's full of willow trees and all kind of stuff.
Wow.
So it's like, boys, it can be done. We just need to quit fighting about how to spend the money and just do it.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, it's a shame.
A lot of the marshland, is that mostly due to development, like you're saying, dredging, or is it a lot to do with the hurricanes and stuff like that?
Well, there's arguments both ways, but I mean, there's a couple different factors, and I'm not going to point the finger all at one. I mean, obviously, and I don't think that none of this was intentional, but when they started dredging canals for inside oil rigs and oil business and stuff like that, that started the subsidence in those areas. And of course, that started back in the 40s and 50s when technology didn't exist to be able to educate people to know that what the problems may be. So I don't really blame them 100% at all. But then you start having that subsidence, and then you have, a couple major hurricanes. And in the last 4 years, we've kind of been hammered pretty hard by hurricanes.
Yeah.
And Katrina itself wiped out, they said, 80 years of erosion in one night.
Wow.
So you lose that in one night, then obviously from that point on, it just accelerates.
Yeah.
So it's like a big giant snowball coming down a mountain, and it starts off as a snowball, and before you know it, it's as tall as the Empire State Building, and that's what's happening now. The the occurrence of the loss of the wetlands is as you blink your eye, you're losing it. And I
And that's
forget
one of
what
those
it is
things.
right now. It's a football field every half hour.
Yeah,
that
and
we're-
that's one of the things. I mean, a lot of people don't understand is those wetlands is kind of the last barrier of protection during a hurricane
Oh,
for New Orleans, for
absolutely.
Hammond, for all those little towns, Venice, all those towns. That's your last bastion of keeping the waters at bay and keeping it from killing.
I was actually listening to
There you
one of the talk show radios today when I was driving, picking up things, and they were discussing that. And, you know, and they can do it. And it's just a matter of quit the arguing to do it. If you pumped in what used to be the Berry Islands, and heck, they built Dubai out in the middle of nowhere, and look what that is.
Yeah.
So let's say we pumped that in, and the protection. Now I forget exactly what it was, but protection that you would get from that would protect New Orleans more than what they're doing by elevating levees and all that kind of stuff, because
no doubt.
Because the saltwater is now lapping very close to New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to restore the outer skirts and then work your way back in, and it can be done. And we need that. We need that estuary. Yeah. We need that incubator for everything that. I mean, I know everybody loves to eat shrimp. Everybody likes to eat crabs. Everybody likes to eat seafood. And I sure as hell. And I know one thing: the redfish, they like to eat them too. So that's.
Well, I told Justin the main reason I wanted to come down there and visit with y'all. I'm just going to come down there and eat.
Yeah.
Sideline.
Oh yeah.
As you can see, I'm sitting quite comfortably in the well, that really wasn't supposed to be funny, but but the food. You know, I tell all my clients that 50% is coming and fishing and enjoying the fishing, but 50% is the food that we serve to our clients, because that's a big part of the trip is the Southern Cajun cuisine. It's unlike no other place in this country.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you always got that whenever, if you're catching them or if you're not catching them, there's always the food to fall back on.
Oh, and we have that discussion on a weekly basis. I can't control the fishing. I work hard, and my sons work hard, and we always give 100% to try to produce. But fishing is fishing. It is what it is. I don't care how good you are. You can be the Kevin Van Dams in the world. You're going to have tough days. But one thing, when you get back to the lodge, there's nothing going to be tough about the food. My wife will have it perfect every night.
So, Mike, when it comes to bass, frontal conditions and stuff like that, high pressure systems, all those things are what bass anglers talk about affecting the bite. Is it the same with redfish?
Yeah. In fact, I mean, I'm gonna kind of think that what you're saying is the way I'm thinking here. My worst day that I dread is the day after a major front. I'm like, and I'm going to be dealing with that in about 48 hours. And we're getting these strange fronts this year that, it's going to be 85 tomorrow till about 3:00. Then we have a major front coming through tomorrow evening, and it was in the 80s today. And absolutely, to me, again, and I don't know about the bass world, but the hardest day to fish is the first day or maybe 2 days after a front. And, they can just get lockjaw. I mean, they're not happy.
Yeah. Hey, David, guess what we're dealing with this weekend?
I know. I'm aware.
Yeah. Mike, I think that, the weather gods has our number because so far this year, just about every tournament that we fish, there's been some kind of front system.
Oh,
and it'll be beautiful weather leading up to the tournament, and then on Friday night, boom, it just drops down to the 20s or teens or whatever.
Justin, it's a running joke for our redfish tournaments. When they put out our schedule for the year, I can tell you right then and there when bad weather's going to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I can predict when the bad weather will be, and sure enough, I mean, we've had a couple tournaments already this year. I mean, my last tournament, It was 28 degrees and it was blowing 30 out the northwest.
Familiar.
That is not redfish weather, boys. That is not good redfish.
It ain't bass weather either.
No.
You know what that's good for?
Especially not out of the kayak.
That's good for sitting right where I am right now.
Yeah,
That's not what
exactly.
that's good for.
Yep.
Well, we went to Texas 2 weekends in February, and we had freezing conditions, both of them. We spent 2 days when we were supposed to be pre-fishing, looking at our boats, trying to freaking get all the ice and
Thaw 'em
snow
out.
out.
Yeah.
God, you know, one thing different, and David, you know, because you've spent some time down here already. We have to deal with the weather, but we also, one of the important factors that we have are our tidal conditions, which dictate how we fish, where we fish, and techniques that we use on any given certain day. Whereas in freshwater, most of your water that's moving is either wind driven or maybe possibly some kind of power plant or whatever that they let loose water or whatever to turn water that gives current in certain freshwater areas. But on a daily basis, like we'll have certain times in a month where we'll have a couple of days where it's what we call a neap tide, where it's just there is no tide. So that's where we're kind of blessed, where we have the Mississippi River, which I'll focus my areas of fishing on days like that, where I know I'll have some river current pushing through some areas to, bring some bait around a point or whatever, because water movement in saltwater is important to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's a very important factor in bass fishing too. A lot of times, Mike, what your son, he kind of had his own little style of guiding and stuff like that. Do you have a preference or a specific way that you guide or what you look for? Or you just kind of leave it up to what the clients want?
Well, obviously, the client is number one, and so his preference is always the top consideration. But that being said, it's up to us, and both my sons and myself, it's up to us to, I guess the right word, maybe to educate our clients in the morning as far as the conditions that we're up against, and maybe their preference might not be the right thing, but we could try that, and then if not, let's switch over and do something else. But we're very flexible on the way we fish, and I don't think that. Like I'll have my clients, we'll sit around and eat dinner and they'll say, well, what are we going to do tomorrow? And I don't say this in a sarcastic way. I don't really make my decision, and I don't even know well, where are we going? I don't make my decision until I'm leaving the marina in the morning and I see what the conditions are. And then I don't make my decision on what we're going to do until I get to the area that I think hopefully is going to be the best under the presented conditions. And then we'll decide what lures and techniques and how we're going to fish for that particular. I'm never locked into, well, I'm going to go fish a certain way for a certain day.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really a good way to do it.
No, I think that's a really smart way to do it. This one of the biggest sayings in the fishing world is fish the moment. So in bass fishing, the wind and all that kind of stuff is for me a lot of times it dictates my decisions.
I was always guilty of this when I was younger, and it took a while for my sons to understand it. And I think a lot of fishermen are always guilty, and it's always in the back of my mind still. You always want to go back to your last spot that you caught your last fish.
Yeah.
And the reason why you caught that fish there was because of the conditions that were present on that given day. Now, if the conditions are the same, heck yeah, get there as fast as you can. But if not, try to figure out another area that the conditions are today. It's going to be similar to the spot that you fished, and you're probably going to wind up pretty good if you do it that way.
Yeah. And
at least saltwater.
Yeah, no, same with that. Same with fresh. That's one of the hardest things to get over is that memory of, man, well, I caught that 6-pounder over there on that log, And
you're going to that log.
that log is the first place we're going to.
At some point during the day.
At some point, yeah.
It may not be the smartest decision, but we go there.
Right. But I mean, I like what you said, because that comes with that experience is having the confidence in yourself to make that decision in the morning based on the conditions. And that's something we try to emphasize a lot on this show, is kind of some of those educational pieces that some people don't really think about. A lot of people get locked into the lures and this and that, but there's so much more that can dictate your bite.
I think it's important for guys like you, David, Justin, myself, guys that have got time on the water and experience. It's up to us to help teach about the fishing and the how-tos, instead of trying to keep everything so close to your chest. Now, granted, when it comes to tournament time, that may be a little bit different, but
Yeah.
but it's up
Yeah.
to us to help educate people on. I mean, let's think about it. Let's say you're just starting to fish. Well, there's so many things that can be so confusing to somebody. We should be the ones to help somebody further their confidence to get out on the water and
Right.
go do the things that we love to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Mike, what I want to know, what's one of your best stories? It could be either with a client or yourself or your sons or whatever. You got a really good story to share?
Man,
Fondest memory.
my fondest memory. Personally, my fondest memory is always been starting to fish with my boys when they were very young. And okay, here's a cool memory. Now, I used to take my boys, again, like I said, once they started talking, and they were very young, but I'd have to rotate them every weekend. I couldn't take them both out on the same boat at the same time, because then it was bump, we're butting heads at some point. So I'd rotate them every weekend. So one weekend I'm going duck hunting, and I've got a couple clients, and I'm taking Michael, and I don't know, Michael was probably 4.5 at that time, and I'd given him a BB gun for Christmas. So he's coming hunting with us, with his BB gun. So, make a long story short, we're shooting our ducks and stuff like that. So here comes a flight of teal coming in, and it was probably about 15 of them. Boy, and everybody gets up, including Michael, and shoots, and there's like 4 or 5 birds just dropping. Man, Michael just stands there. I mean, I've never seen a peacock chest on a 4-year-old. So he looks at everybody, goes, "You see that? That's the one I got right there." He said, "I got that one right there in the head." And we all started giving him a high five, and to this day, he still believes he got it with a BB gun. I mean, but I've got so many stories that golly, I mean, I remember one time we hooked a blue marlin at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we went in reverse chasing this fish for 21 miles. I actually spun a shaft. I had twin engines on my big boat, and I spun a shaft. And 8 hours into the fight, this giant marlin is starting to jump, and the line went underneath my rudder in my deckhand at the time. Never forget. I mean, without even thinking about it or talking about it, he dove over, got the line out from underneath the rudder, and saved the fish. And it was actually a 16-hour battle.
God.
That's insane.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. But
Gosh.
I mean, I could go on and on with stories. It's I think that's one of the great things about this life and this business is the memories and the friends that you meet along the way. That and everybody's special. I mean, and every memory is special.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's I'm truly blessed to be able to do what I love to do. Although it's a lot of work and it's a tough life, but I 100% love what I do.
Yeah. You all right over there, David?
I'm all right.
Is it your turn, David?
My turn.
We've all had a little something going on today. Y'all are coughing. I'm cutting out on y'all.
And speaking of while we're cut out, Seth wanted me to tell you, Mike, he still has that hat to this day. He wanted me to let you know it made his day when you and Dan signed it.
You know what? I'll be willing to bet that 20 years from now, if I'm still around, he's still gonna have that hat.
Oh, I guarantee he's still.
He's gonna lose a lot of lures. He's gonna break a lot of lines. He's gonna break a lot of rods. He's gonna maybe wreck a car every now and then, but he's gonna have that hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That hat's probably encased and enshrined somewhere in his room.
You're not gonna be able to buy that hat from him.
Yeah.
No.
Best way to keep that hat is to leave it at home.
And David, you know what? That it's moments like that really bring you down to earth and keep your feet on the ground. It's like, man, that's some cool stuff right there.
Yeah. No, absolutely no doubt.
And that's why I'm blessed. Not because I get to go fishing every day, but for moments like that, that's why I'm blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's always the stuff like that you remember the most. I mean, you forget catches and stuff like that, but those little things stick with you for sure.
Yeah, it's like I had a guy. I don't know if you were in the Battleborn booth when he passed by during Red Crest, and he had one of those big replica Rapalas, the like top water bait, and he's got everybody's signature on it. So he walks up to me, he goes, "Mike Frenette," and I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I'm a fish out of water. I'm a saltwater guy up there in the middle of Red Crest. You know, I do it for my sponsors. And he goes, "I need you to sign this." I said, "Sure, I'll be glad to." He goes, do you know that I've got 4 of your signatures on 4 of these baits?" He said, "I got one of your signatures in Shreveport at BASS Championship Classic. I got one at the last Bassmasters Classic. I got one here at Red Crest, and I got one at ICAST. It's 4 baits, 4 different baits I've got your signature on." And and he's got everybody on. And I'm like, again, that's
pretty cool.
it is cool. It's because I'm nothing special. I'm just a guy that fishes. But if I can make somebody's make somebody's day or make somebody's moment a happy moment, man, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Mike, do you guide 365 days a year? Or?
Yeah, you know what? If I'm not doing television shows or doing my videos or I don't get to guide 365 days a year because my wife just will not allow it. I mean, she puts her foot down. We gotta have some our time sometime. But I'm on the water a lot, and yes, I still guide full time with my boys. I still fish my tournaments. It's what keeps me going. And I've had many people ask me, "Well, are you ever going to retire?" I'm like, what am I going to do if I retire?
What's everybody's plan when they retire?
If I retire, I'm going to go fishing. So guess what?
Yeah.
I'm there.
Why not get paid to do it?
I'm there. So I'm a happy guy.
Yeah.
So
good.
That brings me to a question. What is the best time of year for somebody to book a trip with y'all? Or does it matter?
You know what? And that's such a good question, whether it's book a trip with me or form their own trip to come down with their kayaks or whatever. Here's what I say, David. It again, back to what I said before. We have great red fishing all year round, so it's weather predicated. My 2 favorite months are probably November and December, only because I like that time of the year and I like the weather, and water is usually clean and clear, and it's the fish can get stupid, but they get stupid all year round sometimes. Like my boys this last week when I was out at Salt Lake City at the Traeger headquarters, Stephen called me and said, or it might have been up at Red Crest, I forget. And he said, "Dad, I got this giant school of redfish in 2.5 foot of water. They're literally bumping into the boat." He said, "But we can't get them to bite anything." I said, "Well, you know what? Don't leave. Stay right where you are. Something's going to happen at some point." And sure enough, at 1 o'clock, he said they just went crazy. So I think when it comes to guiding, people have to book trips with us according to their schedule.
Right.
But they have just as much chance in January as they do in July or August. It's there's just different conditions and different weather that you're dealing with. But if the weather is good, and when I say with the weather's good, if the wind isn't strong, I I feel pretty confident on any given day we're going to go catch some big fish. Now, obviously, I'll have my slow days, but for the most part, it usually works out pretty good.
Yeah.
But like I said, November, December, I kind of try to keep that secret because I love that time of the year.
If a guy wanted to come down with his kayak, are there some some local areas that you would recommend going to? I mean, with kayak fishing, we got to be close to where we're going to go fish at least somewhere
Sure.
close.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And one thing I would advise anybody that wants to come down with a kayak and they want to go play with the redfish, stay away from the river because that's the current. You get yourself in a little bit of trouble out there.
Yeah.
Stay away from the big passes. We actually have a road that leads to the Venice Marina. It's called Tidewater Road, and there's guys that launch their kayaks there daily. And there's a big pond and estuary system right there. That, in fact, that pond used to be a cypress pond years ago before Katrina, and it was literally hundreds of cypress trees in it. And it was one of my favorite ponds to fish redfish. It was crystal clean water, and this was back in the day, and nobody went in there, and there was always redfish in there. And there's still redfish in there. In fact, what's good about that whole area is that it's actually got too many shallow areas and cypress knees left in the water that it's not good for outboard boats. So the kayak fishermen really have a great area there to be not only by themselves, but have great chances of success.
Yeah.
To catch nice redfish, and they can stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
And trouble, I mean, rough, for the most part, rough water and current.
Right.
Or they can, they pretty much, pretty much anywhere south of Port Sulphur, along the southbound side of the highway, they could go over the levee because the marsh comes right up to pretty much to the levee now. They can pretty much go over the levee and launch their kayaks and go fishing. But there's endless. All they have to do is look at a map. Any water that abuts the road, they can catch a redfish.
Wow.
There you go.
Now I'm going to ask a question. You may have mentioned it already. Are redfish, are they cover-oriented fish like bass are?
Not. I'd have to say no overall. No, not compared. Not as much as bass. Now, they do like to hang out on oyster reefs. They do like to hang out on drop-offs on the edge of sandbars. That's our cover. We don't have stumps. We don't have trees. We don't have those things that and in most part, the redfish aren't by themselves. Whereas one bass might be on that stump right there, like you said.
Right.
I know I had a 6-pound bass on that stump, and pretty much when I turn him loose, he's going to go back to that stump. But our redfish, they're usually not by themselves, so they're slow roamers. They don't move around real fast, but they'll get on the flats, and when the tide comes up, they get on the flats, and when the tide goes out, they'll migrate down. And what I really like is areas that go from, like, let's say 2 foot of water and drop down to 4, 5, 6 feet of water quickly,
Yeah.
like in a sharp edge, because they will use that as their highway, and as the tide is falling or coming in, they'll ambush the bait that's being sucked down that drop off. Likewise, it's probably no different than bass fishing too. Any point, any little we call them trenasses or little drainage that's coming out of the marsh into a pond or a bay or whatever, absolutely a place to consider. But as far as structure, not other than oyster reefs, I would call that I would call that structure, but that's still not like bass.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I guess you're right. I mean, there's just not as much cover and stuff like that, in the type of water that you're fishing. You mentioned, the cypress trees and stuff like that. I didn't know if they related to cypress trees at all, or use cover very much at all.
They used to in that pond and there's still a few areas that have some cypress trees, and you'll find when when the water's clear, you'll see 2 or 3 of them just kind of huddled around a tree or whatever, but they may only be there for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of move on and maybe find another tree or swim just slowly around, and then they'll kind of peek around that tree to see if Mr. Crab is coming around the corner, so they can kind of put a little can of whip butt on them.
Yeah.
And but you're not going to see those same 3 redfish at that same cypress tree every day. No.
Right. Yeah. So what about what you mentioned some time frames that's, I guess you said pretty much year round is good red fishing, but you got your months. Is it kind of the same with top water? I mean, I know your water temperatures and stuff like that are, they're probably not getting down into the 40s and stuff like that, like as much as fresh water does and stuff like that, but could be wrong. But do you have like a time of the year when your top water bite is best?
Well, let me just back up a little bit. We do get really cold water temperatures because of the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
When the Mississippi River rises, we can get water temperatures in the high 40s, low 50s. That low 50s is like 50, 51 is not out the question at all. That being said, that cold water disperses through the marsh, and you look for areas away from where that current's strong or coming through the Roseau canes or whatever, and you might get 200 yards away from that, and all of a sudden the water temperature jumps up 10 degrees. The top water bite, I really love, August, September, October, November, December is great for top water, but again, we can get a year-round topwater bait if it's calm. I don't like rough conditions for topwater, but they'll hit a topwater 12 months out the year as long as it's calm. Now, some days you can get a tremendous amount of bites on topwater. I mean, it could be one fish after another, or other days you might only get a handful of bites, but the guy that's a topwater fisherman and that's the way he wants to do it, he's willing to give that effort to get those bites on the slower days because of the reward on a topwater bite. Yeah. But I would say midsummer through fall is the best time for topwater.
Gotcha. What does a finesse day look like for you? Don't tell me a drop shot.
No, but I've been thinking about that quite a lot lately. I've been thinking about that with a wacky worm. If it works with that bass, it's got to work for the redfish.
Yeah. So far, everything else sounds like the same.
I mean, really, who'd have ever thought everything that you've been taught all your life about fishing? When they came out with that wacky worm style, I'm like, that goes against all odds. I mean, but a finesse, huh?
But it works.
Oh, David, yeah. Well, look, I mean, as we were young kids growing up, when it comes to bass fishing or any fishing, I mean, it's like, I remember when I was a kid, like, don't even talk in the boat. Don't even say anything. You got to be so quiet. You got to be so stealthy, especially because I fished bass and perch and stuff growing up. We all did. And especially when it comes to bass fishing, it's like, you got to be stealthy. And then came along the Alabama rig. Nothing but a giant piece of hardware. There's nothing stealthy to it at all.
Yeah.
That you're dragging through the water and you're catching bass. I said, okay, everything I learned about bass fishing just went out the window.
Yeah.
But my finesse days are when fishing is slow, then that tells me to slow everything down. And when I think I'm going slow enough, slow it down even more. And my finesse fishing would be using probably a half-ounce jig head with a plastic tail, Swim and Shiner or RedFish Magic bait from Strike King, and I'll slow it on the bottom. I mean, just kind of lift my rod tip up and let it flutter down, kind of let it sit, and then maybe pull it through the sand or the mud just a little bit. And that's my finesse type of day. That's when I know that they may not be real happy, and I've got to work to get our bites.
Yeah.
And it's patience, but it's rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. It's same. There's a lot of different, lot more. I would say there's a lot more finesse tactics and stuff like that in bass fishing. You know, you've Ned rig or drop shot and finesse, swim bait, all that kind of stuff. But man, it's tough. That's when the fishing is tough to hang with and stuff. But man, the bites can still be really good when even on those tough days.
The bass, the redfish and the bass are the same thing. I've seen days when, you want to use, let's say, a lipless crankbait, a red-eye shad, and it works 80% of the time. But for whatever reason, they're in their mood and they're not going to hit it, and then you work a jig, just kind of hopping on the bottom slowly and stopping it.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, that just aggravates the heck out of them, and bam, they just smack it like crazy.
Yeah.
Or I'll take even like a 10, as big as a 10XD in 2 foot of water, and just work it slow. And I really think to them it's like a crab stirring up the bottom, coming through slow, and it just aggravates the heck out of them. They just so when they're in their mood, I always say don't be afraid to try different things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you hear that a lot. Kind of, guys going from one extreme to the other. I've seen the saying, when it's really tough bass fishing, especially during the summer, one of the best things you can do is just absolutely burn a crankbait. Just reel it as fast as you can. If the fish are in there, they're gonna react to it. That's a big thing on on the Tennessee River and stuff like that. I don't know why it is, but sometimes it works.
No, we do the same thing, especially around the jetties, the rock piles, and oyster reefs that have drop offs right next to them.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I love burning a crankbait through those areas, and especially, and it seems to me when that crankbait ticks off of a rock or ticks off of an oyster shell, boom, that's when you get your strike.
Yep.
And you're burning it through, leaving a trail. And when I don't know if it makes the sound when it hits the rocks or what the deal is, but whether they were following it before that or whatever, but at that point they've had enough and they grab it.
Yeah. Just that little sudden change of direction or sound or something that it does. Yeah. Yeah. You're talking about throwing lipless baits. That's one of my favorite baits to throw year round. I mean, I typically always have it tied on. But you can usually, especially if they're not biting it on a slow retrieve or a steady retrieve, man, I will burn that thing as fast as I can and just kill it. And you wouldn't believe as many times. I'm sure as many times a fish is probably following, and then all of a sudden that just sudden drop, from being burned to just dropping, they will absolutely hammer it.
It's amazing you said that because a lot of times I'll find that the redfish will what I call slap at it. You can feel them just come up behind it, slap at it. I'll stop. We're 3-4 foot of water at the most. I'll stop it, and I know that, and that's one thing about the red-eye shad compared to other lipless crankbaits. When it goes to the bottom, it sits on its nose the way it's made. Well, I'll just stop it, and it'll go. I can feel when it hits the bottom, and 2 seconds later, that redfish will pick it up on a dead stop. Yep. It's not even moving anymore. He's just staring at it, and he's like, "Oh, are you going to make one more move? Or what are you going to do? I'm just going to take you." And it works. It works.
He's just waiting for it to move, and there it does, huh?
Yeah, just stop it, and then boom.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, you, what else you got coming up for the year? Or have you already started fishing tournaments for the year and everything?
I do. I don't even know what my tournament schedule is because we've been so head over heels trying to get the lodge back in order, and it's been such a difficult thing trying to get professional help on construction wise.
Yeah,
because there's so much damage up in the New Orleans area, from New Orleans all the way down through Houma and Thibodeau and Laplace and all that. That coming down here is not at the top of the list. And I actually this past weekend had my first construction crew get down here to give us a hand, and they're working with us on weekends right now, which is a blessing because I really need them. And I'm hoping within next 3 or 4 weekends we get everything done that we need to do, because we haven't been able to utilize the lodge since the Hurricane, and one of my good friends who competes against me in is an extremely good fisherman. Has a private place in the back of the marina, has a little condo in Sean O'Connell, and he's been gracious enough to allow us to use his place when he's not using it. And really, if it wouldn't have been for him, we'd be in a lot of trouble
Wow. Yeah.
financially. So, we're looking forward to having this completed and having the lodge up and running, so that all of our clients and our friends can enjoy it, so that you guys can come down and enjoy it as well.
Oh, that trip is going to be planned soon.
I just
love
thought
to
about
love to have you all come down.
I may actually be down there in June.
June's a good time.
So
After
the
Chickamauga?
Overland Sportsman Show is going to be in June this year at Gonzales.
Oh, really?
Which is still a little bit of a trip,
It's not that bad.
but it's only like an hour and a half, 2 hours, right?
Yeah. I'd say probably 2 hours.
All right, so that just made a decision for me.
It's not that bad.
I'll be in touch in the next few days.
Yes, that sounds like
That
a
trip
winner.
just got extended by at least 2 to 3 days.
That sounds like a winner. If you don't forget.
Yeah.
I won't forget. It's a fishing trip. I won't forget. We forget
So
people's names. We don't forget.
let me ask you guys a question.
All right.
The freshwater guys. I'm a big braid fan. Okay, I use a lot of braided line. I use fluorocarbon as my top shot or leader on a lot of occasions and circumstances. I know that a lot of freshwater guys like to use solid fluorocarbon and aren't real fans of braided line. Is that your thinking as well?
So,
We're hesitating.
No, David's over there laughing because he is a trilene big game through and through. So he does not use fluorocarbon at all.
At all. Ever. I am an old school trilene big game guy.
Well, you know what? Trilene Big Game is a very good line. I use Seagar products, and I'm a firm believer in their product. But Trilene Big Game has been around a long time, and it's a good product.
Yeah,
I have fished
it's
it
consistent.
You don't use any braided line, David?
I do use braided line only in grass situations.
Okay.
So if I was down there with you guys, I would probably bring some braid just because it would make sense to me.
Yes.
Because braid cuts through grass really well.
Right.
When I punch, when I fish around pads, those kind of things where I need something that'll cut through, I fish braid. But day in, day out, I am a big game mono guy. I've fished it for 100 years now. It's all I use. I can respool that stuff for $9.99. I can respool 5 reels every 3 days if I want to.
And it's probably a good thing you do too.
Justin, we're hitting home the reason why he uses it. I get it now. Okay.
It's cheap, right?
Old school cheapskate. What can I say?
Now,
How about you, Justin?
Here's what I'll say. I use braid like David for grass if I'm in grass situations, or if I'm flipping and pitching really heavy stuff. That's about. I use it for top water some too, but I'll do like a braid to monofilament leader or something like that for top water. But I use fluorocarbon quite a bit. But I'll probably be the first one to say that I think fluorocarbon is kind of one of those popularity type things. It's
well.
My take on it is I do understand the benefits of it, and that's one reason that I use it. But it is a very sensitive line, and I tell people that that use it or want to use it, I say you better retie a lot, because if you get a little nick or something like that in it. Now there are some, like I'll say that I've used the Seagar Brazek stuff, and that stuff is really impressive line. It's strong stuff.
I use the Inshore and the Gold Label, and I'll be honest with you, I don't have. What the heck is that?
That's our.
Yeah,
That's a good friend, Mr. Choo Choo. Comes rolling through every Tuesday. Actually,
I thought that was an alarm to get rid of Frenette. So obviously there's definitely different proprieties in the makeup of fluorocarbon versus mono, no question about it. And and I do use a Cigar product in the gold, the gold label and the inshore. I don't have problems with it nicking or breaking, but like you said, 100%, especially when I'm using a top water bait, I will always use a fluorocarbon, maybe about a 2-3 foot leader, because the braid naturally wants to stay on top of the surface of the water, and it's very easy to tangle that front hook on your braid when you're trying to walk the dog. So therefore, I'm always using a leader, fluorocarbon leader, when I'm using my top water baits. Likewise, I'm doing it. I'll use them underneath the popping cork, and it comes back to David or Justin or Mike, who all of us and everybody that's out there. It's all about confidence level.
Yep. Yep. That's it.
It's what because as a fisherman, and it's funny. I mean, I've had guys get on the boat and they say, I don't think I'm going to catch a fish. If you don't think you're going to catch a fish, you're not going to catch a fish. Every time I make a cast, I think I'm going to catch a fish. I might not always do it, but I always think I am.
Yeah.
Got to be confident.
Got to have that for sure.
That's
that's what fishing revolves around, is confidence.
Each one of us had a different take on that, which was pretty cool, because like David and I were talking while you were taking your nap, that it's teaching other anglers little things like that, punching through the grass. Why you use certain different lines for certain different areas and situations. It's little things like that make a lot of difference when you're out there on the water.
Yep, definitely. And wild fishing is probably one of the most expensive sports to get involved in.
Well, it can be. It
can be, but I know a lot of golfers that spend a lot of money on chasing a white ball.
And I promise you, duck hunting is way more expensive than fishing ever was.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know.
Hunting in general.
There's a lot more reward in fishing than these days duck hunting. Man, our duck hunting the last few years have been a lot more difficult than it used to be.
Same.
I've heard that a lot, and it seems a lot at times be more dangerous too.
Yeah.
Especially when you get out there on that public land. Good grief.
No. I won't even do it.
We have our problem in duck season down here. Actually, is you got these what we call these air cooled engine boats nowadays. A lot of these younger guys, I hate to say, try to cross the river when they should, and it seems like the last few years, every year we lose one or two of them because they get swamped and get hypothermia and get lost in the current real quick. So it's back to what I was saying about the kayaks too. Pay attention to your surroundings when
no doubt
you make your trip, and understand where you're going and what you're going to do and what you're getting yourself involved with before you get into a situation that could be compromised.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, we have that up here too, Mike. I mean, we've got the Mississippi River right here in our backyard. I mean, we're 20 minutes from it. One of my first traumatic memories of my life was my coach. One of my coaches at my junior high and my shop teacher got in a bad situation on a duck hunting trip. They lost two of their friends on the Mississippi River right here close to them. And I mean, it was one of the first times I really had that kind of, hey, you can go hunting, but something can go really bad wrong in the process. The first pieces that we ever learned.
That goes for anything on the water. And I learned a lesson this my last tournament. Never happened to me before. But I wear the self-inflatable life jackets for my tournaments. and mine's actually water activated, so that if you do happen to fall overboard, and whether you hit your head or something, as soon as it hits the water, it inflates. Well,
Yeah.
I was fishing in my tournament boat, and the net that I had brought for this particular tournament, this was about a month ago, I didn't have a place to stow it in the boat because the handle was a little too thicker on the end. It wouldn't go in a rod holder or anything like that. So I laid it behind my seats, in between the transom and the seats. Well, I guess during the day or whatever, crossing a couple of bays, it kind of shifted, and the handle, it kind of rotated itself towards the bow of the boat, if you can picture that. So I walked off the bow, and I was switching rods. Well, I went to walk around behind the seats to go to the other side of the boat to make a cast, and when I did, I tripped on the handle of the net, and I went right over. And that was one of those 28, 30-degree temperature days with 30-mile-an-hour winds. And I'm going to tell you, the life jacket worked. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, but so in the older you get, the more conscious you get about safety, because you've seen a lot and you've heard a lot. But when I'm fishing, especially by myself, when I'm pre-fishing for my tournaments, that life jacket's on the whole time, from the time I leave the dock to the time I come in.
Yep.
That's one thing about kayak fishing we preach. I mean, it's one of those things I tell my customers. They ask, do I need to wear a life jacket? Yes. 24/7, you need to wear a life jacket. Do you have to legally? No, you don't have to. But yes, if you're in a kayak, you definitely should be wearing one 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes second nature.
And they've become, again, the technology. I don't want to use the word sophisticated, but I want to use it. I mean, those life jackets, those style life jackets, no matter whether it's a Mustang or whatever brand it is, everybody's got them. You don't even know you're wearing them when you have them on.
Yeah.
There is no reason for anybody not to have it on, and
No doubt.
it does save lives.
Yeah.
And it's a fact here in Louisiana, and unfortunately, every year there's boating accidents. I'm sure where you are too, and I forget what the statistics are, but pretty much, the higher percentage of the fatalities are because people didn't have life jackets on.
Yep.
No doubt.
And wearing those styles when I'm pre-fishing and when I'm fishing my tournament, we have to wear them when our motor's underway from point A to point B and all that kind of good stuff. That's a rule. But even when I'm fishing during the tournament, I don't take it off.
No. There's no reason not to. As comfortable as they are,
they're super lean.
Yeah, they are. They're not cumbersome at all. They get in the way. No way. They don't interfere with my casting. There's like David said, and he preaches to all his clients and the kayakers. I do the same thing with there's no reason not to. You tell me one reason not to. I'd like for somebody to tell me. Yeah. There is no reason.
Yeah. I think that, with kayak fishing growing as much as it has in popularity, that's one of the things that's resonated the most with that growth is safety. And I think a lot of people that were kayak anglers before, the onset of competition and stuff like that kind of really came about or became more popular. I think it's, really gotten the word out there to just kayakers in general, just, to always wear your PFD. Because we've seen and had the losses and stuff like that in our community as well. And they're tragic.
What's sad is when it could have been prevented. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes these people, I don't know if you've been on the Tennessee River before, but especially Kentucky Lake.
I've been on Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, it can be brutal.
Kentucky Lake's got some open water.
Yeah, some really big open water. Yeah, it's a massive lake. And there's been I've heard about people that have drowned in Kentucky Lake where they weren't wearing a kayak. I don't know at one point in my life that I've ever been on Kentucky Lake that the thought even crossed my mind to not wear a PFD on that lake. It's intimidating as it is, but yeah, you got to have that thing on, man. You never know. You never know when it's not going to give you any kind of forewarning, when it happens.
Oh, no.
Like you said, you've been doing this, your entire life, and
it happened like that.
Exactly.
Like that.
Well, Mike, man, we've been going on an hour and a half. I wish we could go on all night. It's been
No
a lot of
doubt.
fun getting to know you and
Oh,
talk fishing and stuff.
how's it hard, to sit down with great guys like you and to sit there and talk about fishing? You're right. We could talk all night long.
Oh, it'd be 1 o'clock in the morning.
I love to talk.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, Justin does too, but he has to take naps in between.
Yeah, I gotta have my snoozers. I got Hewlett Packard to thanks for that.
But one thing I do want to thank you all for having me on. It means a lot to me, and I appreciate it, and hopefully we can do it again in
Absolutely.
the future. It's my honor to be partaking in your podcast.
Well, thank you for coming on. I greatly appreciate you and your son. It's been fun, kind of changing the pace and talking about something a little bit different than just bass fishing.
And I hope that your viewers out there, appreciate it as well, because I understand.
Oh yeah,
their primary interest is bass fishing, but we brought up most importantly tonight how the correlation between the redfish and the bass fishing is. The guys that have never partaked in catching a redfish and are bass fishermen, man, just come on down and do what you do bass fishing, and it works.
Yeah, definitely.
Same rods, same reels, same baits. Yep. Come on down and do it.
Yeah, don't have to buy anything, guys. Just go on down there. Yeah, when we were announcing you guys coming on, had a lot of people say that they were excited. So,
it was my honor.
Well, we'll definitely have to do it again, Mike. We want to just again thank you for coming on. Thank you for Born Batteries sponsoring this show, as well as Mike and his guiding service down there. So, guys, with that, we are going to call it. Hope you all have a great evening, great night, and hope you get out and do some fishing this weekend. David, you got anything else, buddy?
No, I don't have anything else. Mike, I will be in touch shortly.
I look forward to hearing from you, David. It was again an honor to talk to you all tonight. Thank you.
I was trying to decide if I was doing that show, and I pretty well sealed that decision as I sat here and thought about it for a few minutes. So
use that show as an excuse.
That's exactly what I'm going to use it for, as an excuse to come fish for a couple of days.
David, we need to go down there and bring the kayaks and just do some filming and stuff out there. Get some video.
Totally on board. I'll send you the dates here shortly.
All right, let's do it. All right, guys. Man, enjoyed it, Mike. We'll talk to you soon. David, I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right.